Cowboy saved a giant Apache from a bear trap. Next day, the chief demanded he marry his daughter. The morning light filtered through the trees in long golden beams, and the air was fresh, crisp, and full of promise. Jesse, a cowboy known for his courage and quiet determination, rode his horse slowly along a narrow trail that wound through the woods. The horse's hooves crunched softly against the fallen leaves, and Jesse's eyes scanned the area for any signs of wildlife. Hunting had always been more than just a way to find food for him. It was a way to connect with the land, to feel free in a world that often felt harsh and unforgiving. Jesse had been riding alone for hours, enjoying the solitude and the peace that came with it. He was a man of few words, but his actions spoke louder than any conversation ever could. He had grown up on the frontier, learning early how to survive in the wilderness. His life had been full of challenges, storms that threatened to sweep away everything, long winters that tested his endurance, and wild animals that demanded caution and respect. Yet through it all, he had learned one important thing: courage and kindness were just as important as skill with a lasso or a rifle. As he rode deeper into the forest, a sudden sound broke the calm of the morning. A sharp, desperate cry echoed through the trees, making Jesse's heart skip a beat. It was a sound of pain and fear, and it carried a raw urgency that made him stop in his tracks. He strained his ears, listening carefully, and then the cry came again, louder this time. Without hesitation, Jesse tightened his grip on the reins and guided his horse toward the sound. Every step he took brought him closer to danger, but he had never been one to turn away from someone in need. After riding for a few minutes through thick underbrush and uneven terrain, Jesse arrived at a small clearing. There, to his surprise, he saw a man struggling violently. The man was enormous, tall and muscular, and he looked powerful even in his current state of distress. His leg was trapped in a cruel bear trap, its jagged teeth digging painfully into his flesh. The man's face twisted in pain, and he roared with frustration and agony. Jesse could see the blood beginning to seep from the wound, and he knew that time was critical. Jesse dismounted slowly, keeping his hands visible so the man would not mistake him for a threat. "Hey there," he called gently, his voice calm but firm. "I'm here to help. Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you." The man froze for a moment, his eyes narrowing as he studied Jesse. There was suspicion in his gaze, and Jesse could tell that he was facing someone who was not used to trusting strangers. But the pain was overwhelming, and eventually, the man's resistance faltered. "Help quickly," he growled, his voice rough but desperate. Jesse approached carefully, examining the trap and the man's injured leg. He could see that the wound was serious, but he also noticed the strength in the man's arms and shoulders. This was no ordinary person. He was a warrior, someone who had faced danger before. But even the strongest could suffer when caught off guard by something as cruel as a trap. Working quickly and carefully, Jesse used a small knife to loosen the trap's mechanism. The man gritted his teeth and tensed every muscle, but Jesse spoke softly to keep him calm. "It's going to be okay. Just hold still for a moment. Almost there." Slowly, the metal teeth of the trap began to release, and with a final effort, Jesse freed the man's leg. The man fell to the ground, clutching his leg and breathing heavily. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the sound of Jesse's horse shifting nervously nearby. Then the man looked up at Jesse, his expression a mix of surprise, gratitude, and lingering caution. "You saved me," he said, his voice low but steady. Jesse nodded. "That's right. No one deserves to suffer like that. You'll be all right. Let's get you out of here before anything else happens." The man, whose name Jesse soon learned was Weah, slowly rose to his feet with Jesse's help. Despite the pain, his movements were controlled and deliberate. Jesse could see that Weah was proud, not used to being helped, but he also realized that there was a quiet strength in this man that made him different from anyone he had ever met. They began the slow walk back toward Jesse's horse, each step careful, each movement deliberate. Jesse offered support whenever Weah faltered, and in return, Weah showed a respect that was quiet but unmistakable. As they moved through the forest, Jesse took the time to observe Weah. His features were striking, his eyes sharp and alert, and his build made it clear that he was a man used to the hardships of life. Jesse had seen many men in his time, but there was something different about this one. He carried himself with a dignity that was hard to ignore, and yet there was a vulnerability in the way he limped slightly from his injury. Jesse felt a sense of responsibility for him, not just because he had saved his life, but because he understood the weight of such an act. Saving someone's life often meant becoming part of their story, whether you wanted to or not. By the time they reached a small clearing where Jesse had tied his horse, Weah's pain seemed to lessen, though it was still clear that he needed more help. Jesse offered him water from a canteen and encouraged him to rest. "Take your time," he said. "You've been through a lot. There's no rush." Weah accepted the water, drinking slowly, and Jesse could see the tension easing from his shoulders. They sat together in silence for a while, listening to the sounds of the forest. Birds chirped in the trees, a gentle breeze moved through the leaves, and the distant rush of a stream could be heard. For Jesse, moments like these were rare, a chance to connect not only with nature but with another person in a meaningful way. Weah, though initially reserved, seemed to appreciate the quiet as well. Finally, Weah spoke, his voice quieter now, filled with a mix of gratitude and caution. "I did not expect this from a stranger." Jesse smiled, shaking his head. "Sometimes people surprise you. I do what I can." "That's all." Weah nodded slowly, understanding more than words could express. There was a bond forming, one built on trust, respect, and the shared experience of facing danger together. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Jesse helped Weah mount his horse. Though the man was still in pain, his spirit was intact, and his gratitude was clear in the way he looked at Jesse. "I will not forget this," Weah said firmly. Jesse nodded. "Good. Then I'll expect you to remember that sometimes courage means helping someone when they need it most." With that, they rode slowly out of the forest together, two men from different worlds, connected by a moment of bravery and compassion. The journey back to civilization would be long, and there would be challenges ahead, but for now, the bond they had formed was strong. Jesse knew that this encounter would not be forgotten, not by him, and certainly not by Weah. By the time they reached the edge of the forest, the sun was fully risen, casting a warm glow over the landscape. Birds took flight, and the sounds of the wilderness seemed to celebrate the new friendship. Jesse and Weah rode side by side, aware that this was only the beginning of something much larger. In the days ahead, they would face trials that neither could imagine, but for now, there was only the satisfaction of having done the right thing. Jesse's simple act of kindness had changed more than one life that day. It had opened the door to trust, respect, and an unexpected friendship. And in the quiet of the forest, with the morning sun shining down, two men from different paths began a journey that would forever alter their lives. After Jesse helped Weah escape the cruel bear trap, the towering Apache warrior insisted that Jesse come with him to his village. At first, Jesse hesitated. He was a cowboy used to his freedom, the open land, and solitude. Villages, with their people and customs he did not understand, were foreign to him, but Weah's expression left no room for refusal. There was a quiet insistence in his eyes, a respect for the man who had saved him, that made Jesse realize this journey was inevitable. He nodded, understanding that refusing would be disrespectful and perhaps even dangerous. The path to the village wound through thick forest, rocky hills, and narrow streams. Weah moved with surprising grace, despite the injury to his leg, guiding Jesse carefully over uneven ground. Along the way, Jesse began to notice the signs of Apache life. The places where the land had been shaped by human hands, the small clearings where children played, and the smoke rising gently from distant fires. It was a world unlike anything he had seen before, full of tradition, harmony, and careful respect for nature. Jesse had grown up in a world of cattle ranches and frontier towns, but here he saw a different kind of strength, one that came from living in balance with the earth and each other. As they walked, Weah spoke little at first, but then he began to share small pieces of his life. Jesse learned that Weah was a warrior not just in skill but in character. He had faced many dangers, hunted large animals, and protected his people from threats. But the bear trap, something so cruel and hidden, had caught him by surprise. Jesse listened, impressed not only by Weah's courage but by his humility. Despite being powerful and skilled, Weah admitted fear and pain without shame. Jesse, in turn, shared stories of his own life on the frontier, of cattle drives, storms, and encounters with wild animals. The two men, so different in background and culture, found common ground in their shared experiences of survival and resilience. Hours passed as they traveled, and the forest gradually gave way to open plains. In the distance, Jesse could see the outline of a village nestled near a river. Smoke rose from the chimneys, and he could hear the faint sounds of people going about their daily lives. As they approached, Jesse felt a mix of curiosity and apprehension. He was entering a place where he was unknown, where customs and rules were different, and where one wrong step could cause offense. But Weah walked confidently, and Jesse trusted him to guide the way. When they arrived, the village paused to notice them. Children playing near the river stopped and stared. Women tending fires and washing clothes glanced in their direction, and men returning from the hunt looked up with interest. Weah called out to them in a language Jesse did not understand, and gradually, the tension in the air eased. People began to move closer, curious about the stranger who had arrived with Weah. Jesse dismounted from his horse, bowing slightly in respect, and Weah explained in his language who Jesse was and why he had come. Although Jesse could not understand every word, he understood the tone. It was respectful, serious, and filled with gratitude. Soon they were led to the center of the village, where a larger structure stood, Weah's father's lodge. Chief Nanton, the leader of the Apache tribe, awaited them inside. He was an imposing figure with sharp eyes, strong features, and a calm, steady presence that commanded respect. The chief's gaze fell on Jesse, studying him carefully. Jesse held his head high, meeting the chief's eyes without fear. He knew that first impressions mattered and that his actions so far, saving Weah, had already spoken volumes. The chief spoke slowly, in measured tones. Weah translated for Jesse, explaining how the cowboy had saved his life from a bear trap. As the story unfolded, Jesse noticed a shift in the expressions of those around him. The villagers nodded in approval, murmuring among themselves. In their culture, saving a life was not just an act of kindness. It was an honor, a responsibility, and a debt that carried meaning. Jesse realized that this simple act had earned him the attention of the entire village, and perhaps a place within their hearts. Chief Nanton's eyes, sharp and penetrating, studied Jesse for several long moments. "You have done something remarkable," the chief said, his voice calm but strong. "Saving a life is a noble act. It shows courage, skill, and respect for others. These are qualities we value highly." Jesse nodded humbly. "I only did what I thought was right. No one deserves to suffer when they can be helped." The chief nodded, as if weighing Jesse's words carefully. Then he gestured for Weah and Jesse to sit. The lodge was warm, filled with the scent of burning wood and the faint aroma of food. Jesse noticed the decorations, the careful craftsmanship of the tribe, the symbols painted on the walls, and the tools and weapons arranged neatly. Everything spoke of a people who valued skill, tradition, and community. As Jesse sat quietly, he began to notice the depth of Weah's respect for his father. There was a loyalty and trust that bound the warrior to his chief, a bond built over years of guidance and shared experience. Jesse, who had spent much of his life alone, felt a strange mixture of admiration and longing. He realized that this bond, this sense of belonging, was something he had never truly experienced. Yet he also understood that entering this world required patience, humility, and a willingness to learn. Over the course of the afternoon, Jesse observed the interactions within the lodge. Elders spoke, children listened, and warriors prepared for the day's lessons. There was a rhythm to the life of the village, a harmony that came from generations of living together and relying on one another. Jesse began to understand that the act of saving Wea's life had done more than free a man from a trap. It had opened a door to a world that he might never have known otherwise. During the evening, the chief spoke to Jesse privately. He asked questions about the cowboy's life, his experiences, and his values. Jesse answered honestly, sharing stories of hardship, survival, and moments of courage. The chief listened carefully, nodding occasionally, and Jesse felt a sense of being understood, even across the gap of language and culture. In return, the chief shared stories of his people, of battles fought to protect the tribe, of lessons learned from the land, and of the importance of honor, respect, and community. As night fell, the lodge glowed warmly from the firelight. Jesse felt a mix of exhaustion and wonder. He had entered this place as an outsider, unsure of what to expect, but he now felt a deep respect for the people who lived here. He could see that bravery was measured not only in facing physical danger, but also in understanding and honoring the traditions and values of others. Wea, sitting nearby, placed a hand on Jesse's shoulder. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. There was gratitude, friendship, and trust in that simple touch. Jesse returned the gesture, feeling a bond forming that went beyond words. They had shared a moment of life and death, and now they shared something more, an understanding, a connection that bridged their different worlds. That night, as Jesse lay on a simple mat in the lodge, he thought about the events of the day. He had come to the forest expecting solitude, adventure, and the chance to hunt. Instead, he had found himself in a world rich with culture, honor, and tradition. He realized that his life was changing in ways he could not yet understand. The act of saving Wea's life had set in motion events that would test his courage, challenge his understanding of respect and honor, and perhaps lead him to a destiny he had never imagined. In the quiet of the night, Jesse could hear the soft sounds of the village settling down. Children's laughter faded, fires crackled, and the wind rustled gently through the trees. He felt a sense of peace, knowing that he had done the right thing. Yet he also felt anticipation, for he sensed that the days ahead would be filled with lessons, challenges, and surprises. He had earned the attention and respect of Chief Nanton, but with that respect came responsibility. By the next morning, Jesse knew that he was no longer just a cowboy wandering the frontier. He was part of a story larger than himself, one that involved courage, honor, and the lives of people who had welcomed him into their world. And though he did not yet know the full path ahead, he was ready to face it with the same determination and bravery that had guided him through the forest and saved Wea's life. Jesse's journey had only begun, but he could feel the weight of the bond he had formed. It was a bond of trust, respect, and gratitude, one that would shape the events of the days to come. And as he looked out at the village in the morning light, he realized that the frontier he had known was only a small part of a much larger world, full of lessons, challenges, and unexpected friendships. The morning sun rose over the village, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Birds sang in the trees, and the distant murmur of the river added a soft rhythm to the day. Jesse, who had spent the night in the lodge, felt a mixture of curiosity and nervousness. Though he had been welcomed by the villagers and had earned their respect through the act of saving Wea's life, He sensed that today would bring something significant, something beyond what he had yet experienced. Wea was already awake, tending to his injuries with careful hands. Jesse noticed how the warrior moved with a combination of strength and caution, each motion deliberate, even as the pain in his leg still lingered. Wea looked at Jesse and nodded, a silent reminder that their journey was far from over. Jesse, in return, gave a small smile, ready to face whatever the day might hold. He knew that entering the heart of the village and meeting Chief Nanton had been only the beginning. The chief was a man of wisdom, tradition, and authority, and Jesse had a feeling that today he would test him in ways he had not yet imagined. Soon, Jesse was called to the central lodge once more. The villagers parted respectfully as he walked in, their eyes following him with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. Children peeked from behind wooden posts, women smiled quietly, and warriors nodded with approval. The lodge was filled with the rich scent of burning wood and freshly prepared food. Chief Nanton sat in the center, his posture commanding attention, his eyes sharp and steady. Jesse bowed slightly, showing the respect he had learned was important in this new world. Chief Nanton's gaze was steady and penetrating. "Jesse," he said, his voice calm but filled with authority, "yesterday you did something remarkable. You saved Wea's life, an act that requires courage, skill, and compassion. These qualities are rare and they have earned my attention. You have shown that you have a strong heart and a steady hand." Jesse nodded humbly. "I only did what I thought was right. I could not leave him in pain." The chief studied him carefully, then leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "In our ways, a life-saving act is not only an honor but also a responsibility. There are customs that must be followed when one enters our village and becomes part of our lives. You have been brave, but bravery alone is not enough. Respect, understanding, and willingness to embrace our traditions are just as important." Jesse listened intently, realizing that he was stepping into a world with rules and expectations far different from the open frontier he had known. After a brief pause, Chief Nanton spoke again, his voice carrying a weight that made Jesse sit up straighter. "Because you have saved my son's life, you owe a debt of honor to my family. This is not a debt that can be measured in words or gifts. It must be honored in action." Jesse felt his heart beat faster. He had expected gratitude, perhaps some form of reward or recognition, but the chief's tone suggested something far more serious. Wea, standing nearby, looked at Jesse with a mixture of anticipation and respect. He did not speak, but his presence reminded Jesse that this was more than a simple formality. The chief's words were rooted in tradition, in a culture where honor, duty, and family were intertwined. Jesse understood that refusing or ignoring this obligation could offend the chief and damage the trust he had worked so hard to build. Then Chief Nanton said words that made Jesse's breath catch. "You must marry my daughter, Yana." Jesse froze, unable to speak for a moment. The chief's statement was direct, unwavering, and full of authority. He had expected bravery and respect, and now he demanded a bond that would tie Jesse to the family, to the village, and to the tribe in a way he had never imagined. Jesse's mind raced. He had come to the frontier seeking freedom, adventure, and perhaps a life on his own terms. Marriage, especially to someone he had never met, was far from what he had planned. Yet he also knew that this was not a request. It was a demand rooted in the culture, in the customs, and in the honor system of the tribe. Refusing could be seen as an insult, not only to Wea and his father but to the entire village. He looked at Chief Nanton, trying to read the expression on the elder's face. There was no anger, no malice, only seriousness, authority, and the expectation that Jesse would understand the weight of the decision. I am honored," Jesse said carefully, choosing his words with great care. "But I need to understand. I have not met your daughter and I know nothing of her wishes." Chief Nanton's eyes softened slightly, but his tone remained firm. Iana is strong, wise, and capable. She has been raised to understand the ways of our people and to respect the decisions of her father. She will learn to know you as you will learn to know her. This is the way of our tribe. The bond of marriage is not only between two people, it is a bond between families, between generations, and between our people and the land. Jesse felt a mixture of apprehension and curiosity. He had expected challenges in adapting to the tribe's way of life, but this was something far more personal. Yet he also recognized the opportunity before him. He could refuse and risk offending the chief, or he could accept and embark on a journey that might change his life in ways he could not yet imagine. Jesse took a deep breath, steadying his mind. He had faced dangers, storms, and wild animals before, but this was a test of courage of a different kind, a test of the heart and of character. At that moment, Iana entered the lodge. Jesse's eyes fell on her, and he understood why Chief Nanton had spoken with such certainty. She was striking, not only in beauty but in presence. Her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and curious, and there was a quiet strength in the way she carried herself. She approached Jesse slowly, her movements graceful yet deliberate, as if assessing the man who had saved her brother's life. Jesse felt a mixture of nervousness and admiration. Iana spoke softly, her voice calm and composed. "I have heard of your bravery," she said. "You saved my brother, that is no small thing." Jesse nodded, acknowledging the weight of her words. "It was the right thing to do, I could not leave him in danger." Iana studied him for a moment, then smiled gently. "Then perhaps this bond will not be unwelcome," she said. Jesse could feel a strange warmth at her words, a sense that this unexpected path might lead to something meaningful. Chief Nanton watched the exchange carefully, his expression unreadable. He had tested many warriors, many visitors, but few had faced the challenge of earning trust through action, humility, and respect. Jesse had already proven himself through courage, and now the challenge was deeper, an understanding of family, duty, and cultural values that could not be measured in words alone. The villagers observed quietly, sensing the gravity of the moment. Children peeked from behind posts, elders nodded approvingly, and warriors whispered among themselves. Jesse understood that this was not merely a personal decision, it was a moment that affected the entire community. Accepting the chief's demand meant becoming part of the tribe, embracing their traditions, and committing to a path that would intertwine his life with theirs forever. Jesse took another deep breath. "I will honor your trust," he said carefully, his voice steady. "I will do my best to learn your ways, respect your people, and honor the bond you ask of me." Chief Nanton nodded, his stern expression softening slightly. "That is all I can ask. The days ahead will test your courage, your patience, and your understanding. But I believe you have the heart to succeed." Iana stepped closer, offering a gesture of friendship and reassurance. "You will learn as we all have," she said. "And perhaps, in time, you will find that this bond is not only an obligation but a partnership built on respect, trust, and shared experiences." Jesse nodded, feeling a sense of determination. Though the path ahead was uncertain, he was ready to face it, guided by the same courage and kindness that had led him to save Wea's life. Chief Nanton rose, signaling the start of a new chapter. "Tomorrow, your journey begins in earnest. You will face challenges that test not only your skill but your character. Understand our ways, honor our traditions, and earn your place among us." Jesse bowed deeply, acknowledging the chief's words. He knew that acceptance was just the first step. The real test was yet to come. As Jesse left the lodge, guided back to the small room prepared for him, he felt a mixture of anticipation and resolve. The frontier he had known, the wide-open spaces, the simple rules of survival, was giving way to a world of tradition, duty, and connection. Yet he also realized that the bonds he was forming were meaningful, built on courage, respect, and shared experiences. For the first time, he felt that his life was part of something larger, a story that extended beyond himself, a story of honor, family, and unexpected destiny. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and painted the sky with shades of pink and purple, Jesse sat quietly outside the lodge. He thought about the chief's demand, about Ayanna, and about the life that might unfold in the days to come. Though fear and uncertainty lingered, he also felt a sense of purpose. He had saved a life, earned the trust of a proud and noble people, and now faced a challenge that was as much about the heart as it was about courage. Jesse understood that the frontier had taught him many lessons, about survival, about facing danger, about trusting his instincts. But this challenge was different. It required patience, humility, and a willingness to embrace a culture he had only just begun to understand. He knew that the days ahead would be filled with tests, both of skill and of character, and he was ready to face them. As night fell, Jesse looked up at the stars, feeling a sense of connection to both the world he had known and the new world he was entering. He had chosen to honor his courage with humility, his actions with respect, and his heart with an openness to the unexpected. And in that quiet moment, he understood that this was only the beginning of a journey that would forever change his life. The morning air was crisp as Jesse stepped outside the lodge, the first rays of sunlight illuminating the village. He could see children running and playing, elders tending fires, and warriors preparing for the day. But today was unlike any other. Today, Chief Nanton had made it clear Jesse would begin the trials that would determine whether he was worthy of honor, respect, and the bond that had been demanded of him. Jesse felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had faced dangers before, storms on the plains, wild animals, and hostile encounters, but this was different. These tests were not just about strength or skill, they were about character, patience, and understanding. He knew that the chief would observe his every action, that every decision he made would carry weight, and that he would need to prove that he could live in harmony with the tribe. The first test began with hunting. Jesse was guided to the edge of the forest by Weah, who explained that the tribe valued not just skill in tracking, but respect for the animals and the land. "You must hunt carefully," Weah said, "not just to survive, but to honor the balance of nature. The hunt is a lesson in patience and respect." Jesse nodded, understanding the deeper meaning. He was used to hunting for food or survival, but this was a different kind of challenge. For hours, Jesse tracked game through the dense forest, observing the signs of movement, listening to the subtle sounds of the wilderness, and moving with careful steps. He found himself thinking not only about catching the prey, but about how each action affected the world around him. He approached with caution, respecting the forest and its creatures, and when he finally brought down a deer, he did so with gratitude, giving thanks for the life that would sustain the village. After the hunt, Jesse was taught how to prepare the food according to the tribe's customs. Weah watched closely, offering advice on techniques that were unfamiliar to Jesse. He learned to honor the animal, using every part of it and ensuring nothing went to waste. Jesse realized that this was more than a skill. It was a lesson in responsibility, humility, and care. It was about understanding that life was interconnected and every choice had meaning. The second test focused on courage in the face of danger. Chief Nanton had arranged for Jesse to accompany a group of warriors on a patrol through the outskirts of the village. Their task was to ensure the safety of the territory and to check for any threats to the tribe. As they moved through the forest, Jesse observed the precision and discipline of the warriors. Every step was calculated, every movement deliberate. He realized that bravery was not reckless. It was thoughtful, measured, and always connected to the protection of others. During the patrol, Jesse faced several challenges that required quick thinking and calm nerves. A sudden noise in the bushes revealed a wild animal, and Jesse had to make a decision quickly, how to protect the group while causing no unnecessary harm. He remembered the lessons from the hunt and acted with care and precision. The warriors observed him closely, and though they said nothing, Jesse could sense their approval. Each moment of courage, guided by wisdom and respect, brought him closer to earning the chief's trust. The third test was perhaps the most challenging of all. Jesse was asked to demonstrate respect and compassion within the community. He spent the day helping elders with their tasks, assisting children in learning their lessons, and participating in rituals that honored the tribe's traditions. Every action required patience and attention. He learned the importance of listening, of observing, and of contributing without seeking praise or reward. It was a test of character, one that revealed the true measure of a person. As Jesse worked alongside the villagers, he began to notice how the tribe functioned as a single, harmonious unit. Every person had a role, every action mattered, and respect was shown not only to those in power, but to every member of the community. Jesse found himself inspired by their unity, and he realized that courage was only one part of being worthy. It was equally important to act with humility, kindness, and integrity. Weah guided Jesse through each test, offering advice, support, and encouragement. "You are doing well," Weah said one afternoon as they helped elders repair a section of the lodge. "But remember, these trials are not just about skill. They are about your heart, your understanding, and your willingness to learn. The chief is watching not just your actions, but your intentions." Jesse nodded, appreciating the wisdom in Weah's words. He understood that true respect could not be forced. It had to be earned through consistent, genuine effort. Over the next several days, Jesse faced additional challenges. He learned to track animals without leaving a trace, to build shelters that could withstand the elements, and to navigate the land with the same intuition and awareness that Weah possessed. He participated in ceremonies, observed the rituals of the tribe, and listened carefully to the stories of elders. Each experience deepened his understanding of the people and their culture. Jesse began to feel a growing connection not only to Weah and the chief, but to the entire village. The final test combined everything Jesse had learned. Chief Nanton arranged a simulation of a real threat, a staged event in which Jesse and the warriors had to protect the village and its people. Jesse applied all the lessons of the past days: patience, courage, respect, and careful observation. He coordinated with the warriors, helped ensure the safety of the children and elders, and acted decisively when challenges arose. The chief observed silently, his eyes assessing every decision, every movement, every gesture. By the end of the day, Jesse had passed the test. He had proven not only his bravery but his understanding of the tribe's values. Chief Nanton approached him, his expression serious but approving. "You have shown courage, respect, and wisdom," the chief said. "You have earned the trust of the tribe, and you have proven that you are worthy of the responsibilities that come with honor. You understand not only what it means to act bravely, but also what it means to act rightly." Jesse felt a sense of relief and pride. He had faced each challenge with determination, guided by his own values and the lessons he had learned from Weah and the tribe. Iyanna approached him then, her eyes reflecting curiosity and admiration. "You have done well," she said softly. "You have shown that you are not only brave but thoughtful and respectful. These qualities are rare, and they are what truly matter." Jesse smiled, feeling a connection growing between them. It was not yet love, but it was a recognition of shared values, trust, and understanding. He knew that the journey ahead would bring them closer, but for now, he felt a deep sense of accomplishment and belonging. The villagers gathered around, acknowledging Jesse's efforts with quiet respect. They did not need to speak loudly or celebrate with fanfare. Their approval was clear in their expressions, their gestures, and their presence. Jesse realized that this was the essence of the tribe's values. Actions mattered more than words, and respect was earned through consistent, thoughtful deeds. That evening, Jesse sat near the fire with Weah. The warrior's eyes reflected pride and gratitude. "You have done more than I expected," Weah said. "You have not only saved my life but honored our people with your courage and respect. You are becoming part of our world, and that is no small thing." Jesse nodded, feeling a sense of connection that went beyond friendship. He had entered this world as an outsider, a cowboy from the frontier, but now he felt like he belonged. As the fire crackled and the stars appeared in the night sky, Jesse reflected on the journey that had brought him here. Saving Weah's life had been an act of courage, but the trials that followed had tested his heart, patience, and understanding. He had learned that true bravery was not just about facing danger. It was about acting with integrity, humility, and respect for others. Each challenge had shaped him, preparing him for a future he had never imagined. Chief Nanton approached the fire and nodded at Jesse. "You have done well," he said. "Tomorrow we will discuss the next steps. You have proven that you are worthy, but this is only the beginning of your journey. Honor, duty, and respect are lifelong commitments. Remember that, and you will continue to grow and thrive among us." Jesse bowed respectfully, understanding the depth of the chief's words. He had learned that being worthy was not a single achievement. It was a continuous effort, a way of living that required thought, care, and integrity every day. As the village settled for the night, Jesse felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced trials that tested his skills, courage, and heart, and he had emerged stronger, wiser, and more connected to the people around him. He knew that the days ahead would bring new challenges, but he also felt ready. He had learned the value of trust, the importance of respect, and the meaning of true courage. For Jesse, the journey was no longer just about surviving the frontier. It was about becoming part of something larger, a community, a family, and a world that valued honor, tradition, and connection. And as he looked up at the stars, he knew that he had taken the first steps toward a future that would change his life forever. The sun rose gently over the village, casting warm golden light on the lodges and the open fields. Birds sang softly in the trees, and the river sparkled as it flowed past the village. Today was a day unlike any other for Jesse. After weeks of tests, challenges, and lessons, he had proven himself to Chief Nanton, Weah, and the entire community. Now, the final moment awaited him, the day when he would receive the chief's blessing and begin a new chapter in his life. Jesse had spent the early morning helping with small tasks around the village, as he had during his trials. He understood that respect and humility were continuous actions, not just one-time efforts. Every task, no matter how small, carried meaning. As he worked alongside Weah, Hyana, and other villagers, he could feel a sense of anticipation building. The chief had called a gathering in the central lodge, and Jesse knew that all eyes would soon be upon him. When the villagers assembled, the atmosphere was filled with quiet excitement. Children peered around corners, elders settled in their places, and warriors stood tall, their expressions serious but proud. Jesse entered the lodge, feeling both nervous and honored. Chief Nanton sat in the center, his presence commanding respect as always. He looked at Jesse with steady eyes, and Jesse knew that this was the moment that would define his place within the tribe. The chief spoke first, his voice calm but filled with authority. "Jesse, you have faced every challenge with courage, respect, and wisdom. You have hunted with care, acted bravely in the face of danger, and shown kindness and patience to our people. Through your actions, you have proven that you understand not only our ways but the heart of our tribe." Jesse listened, feeling a swell of pride and gratitude. These words were more than praise. They were recognition that he had become part of something larger than himself. Chief Nanton paused for a moment, as if weighing his next words carefully. "It is not enough to act bravely alone. A true member of our tribe must live in harmony with others, honor our traditions, and protect our people. You have done so, and for this, you have earned my trust and my blessing." The chief then turned his gaze toward Jesse with a slight smile. You are now ready to join our family. You will marry Ayanna, and together you will walk a path of honor, respect, and unity." Jesse felt a mixture of relief, joy, and anticipation. This day had been the culmination of many trials, tests, and lessons, and now he stood at the threshold of a new life. He glanced at Ayanna, who approached him with a gentle smile. Her eyes reflected intelligence, courage, and a warmth that made Jesse's heart beat faster. Though they had only recently met, he felt a connection growing between them, one built on respect, understanding, and shared experiences. Ayanna extended her hand, and Jesse took it carefully. Their fingers met, and in that simple touch, there was a sense of promise and partnership. "I have seen your courage and your respect for our people," Ayanna said softly. "I know that you will honor our bond, not just as husband and wife, but as partners, friends, and allies." Jesse nodded, feeling a deep sense of commitment. "I will honor you, your family, and your people. I promise to do my best in all that comes." The chief then began the ceremony, a blend of tradition and respect. Elders chanted softly, telling stories of the tribe's ancestors, their wisdom, and their lessons. Warriors stood with solemn pride, and villagers watched quietly, their expressions filled with admiration and hope. Jesse and Ayanna followed the rituals carefully, aware of the significance of each gesture, each word, and each symbol. It was a celebration of life, courage, and unity, and Jesse felt humbled to be part of it. As the ceremony continued, Jesse reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had come to the frontier seeking freedom, solitude, and adventure. Instead, he had found friendship, trust, and a sense of belonging. Saving Weah from the bear trap had set in motion a chain of events that had changed his life forever. Each trial, each challenge had taught him lessons he could never have learned alone, lessons about courage, respect, humility, and the value of community. Weah stood nearby, watching the proceedings with a proud smile. He approached Jesse quietly and spoke in a low voice. "You have done more than save my life," Weah said. "You have become one of us, a part of our tribe. That is a gift greater than you may understand. I am proud to call you my friend, and soon you will be part of my family." Jesse felt a deep sense of gratitude. Weah's words carried weight, respect, and true friendship, something Jesse had longed for in his life. The villagers then joined in the celebration. Children danced around the couple, elders offered blessings, and warriors shared stories of past heroes, connecting Jesse to the legacy of the tribe. He realized that this was not just a personal victory, it was a communal one. Through his courage, respect, and actions, he had earned the trust and admiration of an entire people. This acceptance was a gift, one that carried responsibility, commitment, and honor. As the day progressed, Jesse and Ayanna spent time together, learning more about each other. They spoke of hopes, dreams, and the future they would share. Though they had entered this arrangement through circumstance, there was a growing bond of trust, understanding, and affection. Jesse admired Ayanna's intelligence, strength, and compassion, while she respected his courage, humility, and determination. Together, they began to imagine a life built on partnership, respect, and shared purpose. Chief Nanton approached the couple once more, his expression calm but approving. "Remember," he said, "honor and respect are lifelong commitments. Your journey together is just beginning. Treat each other with care, learn from one another, and continue to honor the values that have guided our people for generations." Jesse and Ayanna both bowed in respect, understanding the significance of the chief's words. This was not an ending but a beginning, a path that would require effort, love, and dedication. As evening fell, the village came alive with music, laughter, and celebration. Fires were lit across the open fields, casting a warm glow on the faces of the villagers. Jesse and Ayanna walked among them, accepting greetings, blessings, and gifts. The air was filled with joy, gratitude, and a sense of community. Jesse felt a profound sense of belonging, realizing that he was no longer a stranger to this world but a trusted member of a people whose traditions, values, and heart he had come to respect deeply. That night, under the blanket of stars, Jesse and Ayanna sat quietly by the fire. The sounds of the village surrounded them, the laughter of children, the crackle of flames, and the soft rustling of leaves in the night breeze. Jesse felt a deep sense of peace. He had faced dangers, trials, and challenges, but through it all, he had grown stronger, wiser, and more connected. He looked at Ayanna and realized that this was more than a bond formed by obligation. It was a partnership built on trust, respect, and the possibility of love. Ayanna turned to him, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "We will face many challenges together," she said softly, "but I believe that we will grow stronger through them, side by side. You have earned your place here, Jesse, not just through your courage but through your heart." Jesse nodded, feeling a warmth he had never known before. "I will honor this every day," he said. "I will honor you, your family, and your people. I am grateful for the chance to be part of this world, and I will do my best to live up to it." In the days and weeks that followed, Jesse fully integrated into the village. He continued to hunt, help with daily tasks, and participate in rituals and ceremonies. But more importantly, he built relationships with Ayanna, Wea, Chief Nanton, and the entire community. Each day brought new lessons, laughter, and moments of connection. Jesse realized that his life had transformed completely. What had begun as a simple act of saving a man from a bear trap had blossomed into a journey of honor, friendship, love, and belonging. The frontier, with its wide-open spaces and harsh challenges, had taught Jesse resilience and courage. But the Apache village had taught him the deeper values of life: respect, community, humility, and the power of human connection. He had discovered that true bravery was not only about facing physical danger, but about acting with integrity, kindness, and understanding. He had become part of a story larger than himself, a story of trust, honor, and shared destiny. Jesse and Ayanna's relationship grew stronger with each passing day. They learned from each other, supported one another, and found joy in small moments, preparing meals together, tending the fields, sharing stories by the fire, and participating in the tribe's traditions. Through these experiences, Jesse found not only love but also a sense of purpose and belonging that he had never experienced before. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Jesse stood with Ayanna and Wea, looking out at the village bathed in the warm glow of twilight. He felt a sense of fulfillment and gratitude unlike anything he had known. He had entered this world as a stranger, a cowboy with only his courage and instincts. Now, he was a trusted member of the tribe, a husband, a friend, and a part of a community that valued him. Jesse understood that life would continue to bring challenges, but he felt ready. He had learned the importance of patience, respect, courage, and integrity. He had experienced friendship, trust, and love. And most importantly, he had discovered that even the smallest act of kindness, saving a life in a moment of danger, could set in motion a journey that changed not only his own life, but the lives of many others. As night fell and stars filled the sky, Jesse felt a sense of peace and purpose. The village was alive with warmth, laughter, and celebration, and he knew that he had found his place in the world. His journey from a lone cowboy to a respected member of the tribe had been filled with trials, lessons, and growth, but it had also been filled with connection, trust, and love. And as he looked at Ayanna, smiling softly by his side, Jesse knew that this was only the beginning of a life built on courage, honor, and shared destiny.